Well, when it comes to holding people to account, many of these government bureaucrats that these rich people want to give so much more money to allocate, turns out they can't even manage their own finances. You have to hear this high-key, hilarious clip of a woman who called into the Dave Ramsey show recently wanting financial help for her and her partner. And it turns out, best of all, they work for the government. Roll this clip.
We have probably just under $1 million in debt, and we want to know how to get debt-free without filing bankruptcy.
Okay. How much of that is a mortgage?
The mortgage, about $210,000.
So you have $600,000 in what?
$335,000 is about in student loans. We both have advanced degrees, and then the rest is really credit cards and personal loans.
So you have $300,000 of credit cards and personal loans?
We have about $335,000 student loans and about $136,000 in credit cards, $44,000 personal loans, and $35,000 car loans.
Okay. How old are you all?
I'm 29.
Okay. So what in the world?
I mean,
are you both on this, or is this just one of you that's completely lost your mind?
Well, I have the majority of the student loans, and he has the majority of the credit cards. My credit card debt is not great.
Okay,
it's
so
about
why does he at 29 years old run up $100,000 in credit card debt?
Well, he's 32, but I think it's one of those things where just making really poor financial decisions, thinking be able to pay it down as you go, and then it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And
okay, so you both have advanced degrees. What are your degrees in?
We do. So I have a degree, both of our advanced degrees. No, he has an MBA, and I have an advanced degree in policy. I work in the government, and we actually both do now at this point, actually.
Okay, so your household income is what?
Our household income is about $230,000.
Okay, all right. Is there recognition on both of your parts how absurd this situation is?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there is.
Right.
So I think we're both a bit scared and want to do anything we can to avoid.
Okay, great. Then I'm on your team. I can skip that step. Okay, good. Okay, well, you're scared, and you should be. You're disgusted, and you should be.
We are.
You're in the early stages of being sick and tired, and you should be. So
yeah.
Here's the thing. You guys have been living at across the board, from your education choices to your car purchases to your whatever. You've been living at about 10x where you're going to get to live for the next 3 years.
Okay. Yep, that's true.
So I'm getting ready to destroy your life as you know it. Because your lifestyle is considerably above your extremely good income. And has been for a period of time. And so you've gotten used to spending like you're in Congress.
Right.
This is going to be very emotional for y'all. And you're going to have to look at it through that lens and through a spiritual lens, or you're not going to make it. You're going to have to not care what anyone thinks, including each other, because you're not going to spend any money on anything ever for the next 3 years.
So, Brad, when I first saw this video, it frankly gave me hives. My jaw dropped at these numbers, and I have, many thoughts on Dave Ramsey. I was given Dave Ramsey right when I graduated college. I think Dave Ramsey has good financial advice, mostly for people like this, mostly for people who are absolutely cracked and need to get a hold of their finances. And I don't think he's really great if you're trying to invest, but thank God he exists for people like this. What was your reaction?
Oh my gosh. I was just in disbelief. First, I was in disbelief and horror, like gaping, like you would at the sight of a horrible crash.
Yeah.
But then it turned to outrage because I remembered all the ways, like President Biden thinks that I should pay off their student loans.
Yeah.
That they literally got themselves in a situation where their household income is $230,000. That is a lot. It's like 4 or 5 times the average. And yet they ended up $1 million in debt including hundreds of thousands in credit card debt, that's literally just them being irresponsible. That's just them living way beyond their means and and yet we're supposed to pay their student loans. And also, how do you end up with $335,000 in student loans when you're going to work for the government? Like, you should be going to public schools or making more reasonable education choices. That's what you should take out if you're going to become a plastic surgeon and make millions. Otherwise, I mean, I don't know what path you're going down there, but this whole thing, geez, like I said, hives, then outrage.
And they work in the government. That's the part where I really lost it, where she's like, we both work in the government at this point. I have a degree in
Of course, because you couldn't have this lack of financial sense and work in the private sector. You'd be fired for losing money for your company.
Yes, but I want to speak to something bigger here, and I have the same reaction as you. It's outrage that these are the people who get to make decisions over our money and how we're going to spend things, and also that they are wanting to give themselves a break when it comes to these kinds of habits. But I also think it speaks to a deeper problem in America, because I grew up pretty middle class. And I remember even as a kid looking around and being like, how are so many people affording to do all these things my family can't afford to do? Like, we went on a vacation a year, went to like the beach. Like, we weren't going to Disney World every year or going, like, to me, that was extravagant. And then when I became an adult, I had the same reaction. I had a decent income right out of college, nothing great, but like, you know, I was above average, and looking around all these people near me, like, how do they afford to travel? How do they afford these cars? How do they afford these clothes? And I'm just really baffled by it. And it probably took me 10 years out of college to realize, like, oh, everybody is in sinking debt. They are drowning in debt. And I have always lived kind of like Dave Ramsey encourages. I hoard money and don't take on very much debt at all, and it terrifies me. Even right now, I could afford to go buy a brand new car. I love a Land Rover, for example. Guess what? I don't. I drive a 2015 Lexus that my brother got for me through his dealership that I got at cost for $20,000, and it's in great shape, and I'll drive it till it falls apart, because why would I not? That would be so stupid of me to just go sink $60,000, $70,000 into a Land Rover. But I think a lot of people don't think like that in our country. They have this need for immediate gratification. I think a lot of people are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and so they're buying things to look wealthy while, inside their house is crumbling. And to me, this is just terrifying. The average American, I want to say, I think this is still true, has less than $1,000 in their savings account. They cannot afford any sort of, I mean, that's like your brakes needing to be replaced. Like, that's like a home water heater going on. I mean, your basic kind of standard things you could expect to have to pay in life as you go throughout the course of a year. The average American is not prepared for that. And they certainly don't have savings to fall back on for retirement or if they become disabled. And it's just this complete lack of planning for your future that I think is really dangerous, but I also think spells disaster for us down the road, especially with our generation that isn't buying houses as much. A lot of people plan on their house covering a lot of their retirement and have been able to bank on that to some extent. I don't know if that's true. A lot of people have been able to bank on Social Security for many decades. I don't know that that's true. So when you start looking at the baby boomers retiring, which is going to be a massive load on society, just the size of that generation and the fact that they're living so much longer than they used to, society being able to sustain that for people who have not planned ahead, who have not laid out foundations for their retirement, it's going to be a huge problem. And, these people are young. She says they're 29 and 32. It doesn't sound like they have kids, and they have amassed this much in debt. That is terrifying. I don't know how you get out of that. You can live as frugal as you want, but that's a lot of debt to pay down. So it does scare me for our country, just that I don't think this is that outside. I mean, yes, I think most people have $1 million.
Okay, it's an outlier.
They're an outlier, but most people are carrying a substantial amount of debt and don't have savings or a plan to rectify that situation.
Yeah, no, which for me is all the more reason that we shouldn't be eroding what little savings they have through inflation and then making them pay for other people's bad mistakes. Because that's the thing is I don't feel bad for these people. I mean, I'm not happy that they're in a bad situation. I take no joy in it, but I don't give them any sympathy. And I think they should have to sleep in the bed that they made, right? Maybe they have to go bankrupt and they can never get credit again in their life. I don't know. But what shouldn't happen is, for example, like the Elizabeth Warrens and the Bernie Sanders of the world think that we should not just pay 10 or 20,000 like Biden's proposed. We should pay all that $335,000 in student loan debt. Although some of it may be for advanced degrees, but there are some people who even want the taxpayer to pay that. And the idea that taxpayers should have to step in. There are people who want credit card debt to be canceled, healthcare debt to be canceled, regardless of the circumstances it was obtained in. And all of that, to me, if we want to have a meritocracy in our society, we have to let people rise and fall by their own decisions. And that includes people who make really bad decisions. They should have to live with the consequences of them, because when you start bailing people out of their decisions and the consequences, you incentivize more bad decision making. And I feel like this kind of situation is where you end up as a society after years and years and years of bailing people out of their bad decisions. Because if they truly thought and knew all along they were going to be on the hook for all of this, I can't imagine they would have taken out all that debt and made those decisions. So I do wish them the best. But I hope that people don't go down this path. And if they do, they certainly don't come looking for a handout from me, because they will get no sympathy.
Same here.